Already halfway there, and it marks the return of the living dummy. First is the original cover, and this is one of the few, just like the first living dummy, that I remember scaring me if I ever walked near it on my bookshelf, thinking Slappy was going to come to life. Looking back on it now, Slappy just seems so small now in this weird pink heart bed. The 2000s reprint switches out the colors, keeping a green text, but making the entire thing pink. The taglines are, "He's still walking, he's still talking," and "You can't teach an old dummy new tricks." Our classic reprint might be one of my favorite in the whole line. Slappy looks horrifying, and Dorman chose to include the red paint, which we'll see later, giving us the closest thing to blood we'll ever see on one of these covers. You may notice the number 2 also changes from a Roman numeral to a standard number. How unimportant. Lastly, our UK cover shows a lively Slappy slinging a paintbrush with some bright red hair. It seems this one may have been inspired by the TV show design, which never matched the books anyway. Of course, I can't forget to mention Monster Edition 2 and the Living Dummy collections again, both containing all 3 books. This is the rare sort of book where we actually have a family with 3 kids instead of 2. Amy has an older sister, Sarah, and a younger brother, Jed. Every Thursday they have a family sharing night that Amy dreads. Sarah's an artist, so it's easy for her, and Jed's a goofball who doesn't care what he shares. Amy just has an old seashell collection and some Bob Marley CDs. Not so much to show. So she usually makes up stories, gets told she'll be a writer someday, but she still doesn't think she has any talent. Tonight, after a bunch of sibling arguing, Jed shows off his new ability to whistle through his fingers. Amy, instead of a story, has Dennis. Dennis is actually a dummy, a really beat up one at that. She's been using it for a while, and Jed is her biggest hater. She tells a few jokes, gets slowly worse as time goes on, and then Dennis's head falls to the floor. Amy jumps up angry, yelling at Dad because he promised he'd get her a new dummy. But they're all so expensive. Sarah's turn comes around and talks about her newest painting, a watercolor of a cabin the family stayed in a few summers ago. It's in her room for some reason, so she leads the family to it. But when the light comes on, a smiley face drawn on the cliff ruins the composition. Jed laughs and admits he did in fact ruin it himself. He doesn't seem to have any remorse until Mom grabs his shoulders and yells at him. Then he goes into his next phase, where he doesn't apologize but instead gets mad at people, telling Dad he's a talentless failure. He does his best, okay? After a long time, Mom gets Jed to apologize, and no more video games or movies for a week. Amy stays in Sarah's room to cheer her up, but she gets pissed off that Sarah considers her paintings works of art, so she leaves. Rude. She calls her friend Margot, eats some pre-sleep cereal, and goes to bed. Something wakes her up. A face in the window! Dennis, sitting on the window ledge. Amy gets up to move him and hears Jed laughing down the hall. She runs over and gives him a wedgie, to which he says he did it as payback. What for? Well, she didn't stick up for him with Sarah's painting. Yeah, he still doesn't realize how messed up that was. She and Jed go back to their beds and Dennis's head is thrown into a clothes pile. But 2 days later, a new dummy arrived and shit hits the fan. The next day, Margot comes over, a girl so small I can only assume she's around 4 feet. She's also obsessed with the Beatles, something I'm sure must be relevant later. Her dad owns a party venue restaurant with a bunch of rooms, and he might just have a job for Amy. Entertain a bunch of toddlers with Dennis. Sounds fun, right? She'll even get paid. Wow! Unfortunately, Dennis is a headless demon, but flip that frown upside down because Dad just came home with a belated birthday gift. A whole new dummy. He's got wavy brown hair, bright blue eyes, red lips, and that signature chip. How did he get here after the first book? Never ask that damn question, you hear me? His name is Slappy, and Dad got him at a pawn shop so cheap it's like the guy wanted to get rid of him. That's a good sign. She takes some time to get used to the controls, moving her hand into his head and feeling his brain? She jerks her hand out and Dad immediately goes to investigate. Turns out someone left a moldy sandwich in Slappy's head. Time to make sure Slappy's cleared of all invasive substances. When everything seems clear, Amy notices the yellow paper in the jacket pocket. Karu Mari Adona Lomo Malanu Karano. She reads it out loud because that's normal, and then Slappy gives a wink. Amy starts to flip out about what she saw, and Dad has the reasonable idea that maybe his eyelids are loose. A tightening might help, until he gets smacked. Slappy, slaps Dad hard on the cheek, and he blames Amy. She says she didn't do it, but she shuts up quick. No way he'd believe the dummy did that by himself. After some apologies, Amy quickly calls Margot and lets her know she'll take the job. The next day she runs out every shitty joke book in the library, because that is how you make good comedy, and gets to practicing. Sharing night comes around again, and Amy's actually excited for once. At dinner, Jed is a nasty MF, covering his face with spaghetti sauce, and Sarah is the opposite, just gassing herself up with her straight A's report card. Amy, stuck in the middle of two extremes, decides to clean the dishes. Then she sees something coming into the living room. It's Dennis. Then Jed laughs. He took Dennis's head and shoved it into his turtleneck to make it look like it was him. Everyone's impressed with the joke except Amy, who's blushing up a storm in here. When sharing time comes around, Mom tells a work story, Dad sings a folk song, and Jed says that his joke was his share for tonight. So here it is. Time for Amy to put all the practice in motion. She tries a knock-knock joke first, but Slappy immediately just goes wild. He makes fun of Mom for being overweight, makes fun of Dad for being bald. They're two most sensitive traits. Amy tries to say it isn't her, it's Slappy. Then he says, "Did I mention you're all ugly?" Great impression, huh? Well, that's the statement that gets everybody yelling. As you might have expected, Amy's status as a storyteller means no one's believing this one. She's forced to apologize and trudges her way to the room. The next day's even worse. She drops her lunch tray, her report card has 2 C's on it. Not only that, but her teacher left a note about how she isn't working to her best potential. Because her grades are so bad, she can't hang out with Margot on Saturday. She also has a science project to finish. When Sarah gets home from a shopping session, she opens her door and screams. Jars of paint all over the carpet. Her and Mom yell for Jed, but he says he didn't do it. But he did see Amy go in there. Now, to be fair, Amy only went in to get some markers for her science project, but that doesn't stop the pendulum of blame from swinging towards her. No matter what she says, they automatically think she did it. And the only reason Jed's immune is because he said he didn't. So that makes no sense. She cries her way to her room and notices Slappy turned around in his chair, with paint on his shoes? At night, it's interrogation time. Mom and Dad ask for the truth. She tells them, mention Slappy, they get pissed even more, and mention they might need to see a psychiatrist. Honestly, books like these are the most aggravating to read, though I suppose it's part of the design, so good on them. She gets grounded for 2 weeks and no one really talks to her. Even Jed, who's always asking to play or talking shit, isn't around. But the good news! She's allowed to perform with Slappy at the party somehow. As soon as she arrives, it's time to perform. Margot's dad wants it done first thing to hopefully calm some of these kids down. The birthday girl arrives, Alicia, and she wants to meet Slappy. Everything goes well until Amy says she should give Slappy a handshake. Suddenly, she can't let go. Slappy's hand starts to squeeze hers. At first, Amy does the worst thing possible and tries to make a joke out of it, but eventually, she takes her own hand out of Slappy and tries to pry Alicia's hands away, but she can't. Kids are crying, the mom's pissed, and then Slappy starts laughing. So Amy had to go home crying. All the kids got too scared of Slappy to watch the routine, and Alicia's mom threatened to sue the party service. Good luck with that. He only let go once his laughing fit was over. In her room now, Mom and Sarah come in to try and ask what happened. Amy lets the whole story out, and while thankfully Mom knows it's not Amy's fault, it comes around to, my daughter's insane, she actually thinks this dummy's alive? They decide to leave Slappy in the closet for a while. Some time away from him should help. Later, Margot calls and says her dad wants to give her another chance, but Amy doesn't even know if she wants to do this anymore. In the morning, Sarah starts screaming, "Look what Amy did now!" Oh, great. All of Sarah's walls are smeared with red paint, the name Amy repeated over and over. You're getting the gist at this point. They say Amy did it, she says she didn't, she says Slappy did it, they say she needs a shrink. But hold on, she leads them to the closet and shows them the truth. Slappy is sitting cross-legged with a paintbrush in his hand. So of course they think she did this on purpose to blame it on Slappy. They start looking at her like she's completely insane and leave to go make breakfast. Amy picks up Slappy and starts shaking him around. She yells at him asking why he did it. At first he says nothing, but then his mouth opens. Hee hee hee. Margot calls and Amy tells her she can't come over. She doesn't even tell her what she's in trouble for because she can't have her friend also thinking she's a lunatic. Margot mentions another party coming up, but Amy's put Slappy away. She's forced to hang up when Mom comes to check on her, saying that if she just tells the truth, then she can leave her room. Amy has the pride to at least not give a false confession, so how to prove Slappy's alive? Stay up all night, every night, to catch him in the act. Great. Amy's allowed out for dinner, though nobody talks to her. Around 10, she lays in bed, content to stay up to catch Slappy. Then she falls asleep. What a plan that was. A noise wakes her up and she immediately flicks on the bed lamp. It's Jed. He says that he's in the room because Amy told her to come here. But that doesn't make any sense because Amy's been asleep. She thinks he's playing a prank, but he says he just thought he heard her, so they both apologize and go back to bed. Sometime later, a clicking noise wakes Amy back up. The closet slowly opens and Slappy begins moving. Here we go! Amy pokes her head into the hole and watches Slappy move towards Sarah's room. She follows behind, and when he reaches the door, he turns around. forcing Amy to move back for a moment. She sees he's gone and moves to Sarah's room, catching him in the act of nearly painting over Sarah's new mural. She tackles him to the ground, waking Sarah up, and when she does, Slappy goes limp. Yes, we get it. Slappy's dead, so Sarah screams for Mom and Dad, and no one believes her. The next day before going to school, Mom lets her know she's got an appointment set up with Dr. Palmer. Seems like she has a few more days left to prove she isn't insane. At night she's lost, but while thinking of a new way to get rid of him, Slappy comes out of the closet. Not in that way. It's time you and I had a little talk. Time for Slappy's usual shtick. He says that Amy's now his slave because she read those ancient words on the yellow paper slip. He threatens her by saying he'll destroy everything in the house if she doesn't follow his orders, and as his eternal slave, well, I don't really know what he gets out of this. Amy thinks to herself for a moment, hold on, this is a dummy. I can kick his ass. So she flips him over and slams his head into the floor. Then she tries to pin him down. As she does, he spins around and punches her right in the temple. Her vision now hazy, Amy powers through and uses her knee to pin him to the floor. Smacking his head on the ground again, he seems unaffected by the pain. So she throws him in the closet and locks it shut. He keeps slamming on the doors, saying he'll break through, so she needs some help. Obviously not Mom and Dad, but she has some hope left in Sarah. She runs to her room and pleads her case. Sarah actually says that she knows. This whole time, at least since he painted Amy all over the wall, she knew he was alive. Also, if Amy was the one that did that in the first place, why would she write her own name on the wall? This is Turnabout Sisters all over. Anyway, Sarah is apparently so frightened of this paranormal truth that she lied to get Amy in trouble. Somehow she's been jealous of Amy's sense of humor this whole time, feeling like painting is her only way to impress people. They both hug, laugh, cry, really sweet. But no time for that, time to kill Slappy. When they go back to Amy's room, he's broken out. In a scene right out of the first book, the two sisters fight to try and grab this little bastard as he dodges. They manage to twist his arms and legs in a knot and shove a wad of tissues into his mouth. Now what to do with them? It's nearly midnight, so they decide they need to just dump him in the trash a few blocks down. A better idea comes as they ride their bikes though, the sewer. During this whole moving process, Slappy hasn't been reacting at all, so they just throw him in, and the next morning, he's back. Slappy, covered in grime, is sitting at the kitchen table. Amy takes him upstairs and locks him in the closet again, which he could just easily break out of again, so why bother? I guess he only works at night though, because nothing happens until then. Amy catches him leaving the closet again, and out into the hallway we go. Yet again, Slappy makes his way towards Sarah's room, and yet again, he goes to grab a paintbrush. Slappy's thought process at this point makes very little sense. He should realize Sarah might actually stick up for Amy this time. Luckily, a twist gets thrown in here. A new figure jumps in to attack Slappy. Dennis, the OG dummy, starts beating the shit out of Slappy. Sarah wakes up and turns the lights on, just in time to see Dennis slam Slappy's head against the bedpost. His head cracks and splits down the middle. Dennis runs away, and inside of Slappy's destroyed head is a big-ass worm that crawls away, and they just let it escape into the cracks of the wall. Then, even stranger, Mom and Dad pop out of the closet. Apparently, a plan was brewing right under our noses. Amy would leave the closet unlocked, and Sarah would tell Mom and Dad to hide in her room. Then Jed, in his weird Dennis costume, would come in and attack Slappy, surprising him. It was only dumb luck that he managed to kill Slappy as well, but where is Jed anyway? They all move down the hall and find him in bed sleeping. But then, who fought Slappy? Another living dummy down in the first book where Slappy gets the spotlight. Honestly speaking, this trope might get old fast. There's only so many times you can do the parents don't believe me thing until it gets tiresome. But when Sarah and Amy made up, the story definitely picked up. With what little time was left, we got a hell of a lot of action and a happy ending? Nowhere green puke like in the first book, but we did get a weird-ass worm. Now, will that stay consistent with Slappy's lore? We'll see. But that's not it. Unlike the first book, we actually get an episode for this one. The episode starts with this beautiful establishing shot, leading right into Sarah showing off her mural on sharing night. And Jed actually makes his own home movie. One that makes fun of Mom eating ice cream and Dad being bald, but I guess they don't care too much this time.
No, worse, termites. You've heard of the Terminator. Well, we had to call it the Exterminator.
Dennis is absolutely horrific, and if you think that's bad, we don't even have to wait a few days for Slappy to show up. He's nearly double Dennis' size and already starts making his own statements.
Don't have to.
Yeah, we don't have to.
As an adult, Slappy isn't that scary, but as a kid... just look at that. We get a POV shot of Slappy going to ruin Sarah's mural, and he draws some stick figures instead of Jed being responsible. We get a taste of Dad singing, which is just if you're happy and you know it.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
So Slappy says,
That was your dad? Well, what a relief. I thought the cat got stuck in the dishwasher.
Amy, that's not very nice.
And it's funny because earlier Dad got mad at Amy for not having a sense of humor, and now everyone's a hypocritical bitch.
Freight elevator.
Me? But it's not me, it's him.
Instead of a party, Amy and Margot are babysitting Alicia, who gets Slappy out herself. I don't even know how you can accuse Amy of the grabbing thing, because what dummy has controllable grabby hands? Now Margot hates her in the episode, so that sucks. After an expected interrogation scene, Slappy starts to sneak his way out of the closet again. This wakes Amy up and she catches him about to smash Dad's guitar on his head.
What the? Amy!
In the morning, they treat her like a sick patient and Margot ignores her. Then Amy throws him right into the sewer. As you'd expect, he makes it back, tracking some spunk on his shoes. He lets her know the slave idea and how he was brought to life. Instead of Sarah catching Slappy herself with the heartfelt moment, Slappy just says fuck it, wakes up right in front of her. Well, they get a quick hug in the bathroom before they realize Slappy might have killed Jed. Slappy's running around the house grabbing chandeliers and shit, until a mysterious figure destroys Slappy's head. This time a weird-ass green gas comes out of him instead of the worm, and if Jed didn't do it...
It's good to be back in the family again.
That might have been the scariest part of the whole thing. As an episode, it just hits harder. It's lacking some of the emotional beats with Amy and Sarah, but it makes up for it with the visuals and the low runtime. Less times where they all blame her for a new incident, and actually seeing the dummies in this one is much scarier to me than reading about them. Wish we could have gotten the worm, though. So did this book remind you how Slappy is the king of Goosebumps? Did it make you realize there's at least 10 more Slappy books that might rely on the same plot structure? In any case, get ready because in 2 weeks it's time for The Barking Ghost.